Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory to God.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. So, this sermon will probably be a little bit shorter. This gospel reading is an interesting reading in contrast, isn't it? Who is the Lord? Who is the Lord Jesus Christ? He is the Logos. He is the Word of the Father. He is the rational principle by which all creation springs forth. He is wisdom incarnate. What is he doing? He's walking through creation. It's very similar to Genesis. Evening and morning, the first day, God brings creation out of chaos into order over the course of these 6 days of creation. And then he's with Adam and he walks in the garden of his ordered world, this world that he has established with perfect order, perfect rationality, and perfect sense. And what is the Son of Man, who is also the Son of God, what is he now doing? He's walking through his creation. Except it is no longer the ordered garden, but it is the fallen, chaotic garden. And he is restoring order wherever he goes. Wherever he goes, he heals. He heals these two blind men, and he restores their eyes to their proper function, to their proper order. And he continues on. He finds a man who has a demon living in him. This is not proper order. So he casts out the demon and restores the man to his proper state. And the passage ends with him going on, working more miracles and working more healings. This is interesting. This is to be contrasted with what the Pharisees say. They respond by saying, by the power of the devils does he cast out devils. Has anyone heard anything more stupid than this in their life? But that's actually not my words. Those are the words of Blessed Theophylact, who says this is penultimate stupidity. Right? God, first of all, demons cannot cast out other demons. But not only that, what about the other works that he is doing? Right? He's also healing. He's also restoring. He's ordering everything and bringing everything into its proper state. How is that the work of Satan, the author of all chaos and all strangeness, all disorder, all rebellion? It's insensible. And that's where we get to the sad part of this, is that the Pharisees in this case are so passionate that they have lost all sense of understanding. They've lost all sense of order. They are so disordered that when they see order itself standing before them, they lose it. They can't even deal with the truth that is standing in front of them. The interesting parallel to this gospel passage is the gospel passage of the man with the withered hand they bring to the synagogue, and they're tempting Christ. They put a man with a withered hand in front of him, thinking, what will he do? Will he dare to heal on the Sabbath? Will he dare to restore this man? And depending upon the chapter, depending upon which gospel this is taken from, sometimes I think it says Christ looks at them with anger, and then he says to them, is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath or to do evil? And he heals them. He restores the order. Obviously, Christ is doing, and the Pharisees go insane at this moment. They walk out saying, we have to kill him. We have to kill this man somehow. And yet goodness happens directly in front of them. Do you remember that part in the book of Acts? Forgive me, brothers and sisters, I don't remember the chapter, but there is a part in which Paul and Barnabas work miracles. And the people of this city, pagans, regard them and say, these must be the gods come down to us. This must be Zeus and Hermes, because Paul is the speaker. And then they say, bring bulls, let's offer sacrifices. These are the gods that have come down to us. Now, Lord of mercy, this is idolatry. This is sadness. And Paul and Barnabas are ripping their clothes, saying, no. Don't offer sacrifices to us. Don't do this. And yet, what is so interesting is that, forgive me, those people have a very broken conception of the world. They have a lot of ignorance. But that response is a lot more appropriate to what they just saw than to this response that Christ receives from the Pharisees, who say, you must be yourself a demon. Or you must be possessed with one. This is ridiculous. So even these pagans have more rationality than the Pharisees do, because they, within their own framework, say, the gods have come down to us. The gods have visited their people. We should honor them. And this is, I guess what I'm getting to is that God has fashioned this ordered world, and the highest form of rationality, every part of this creation is permeated with rationality. Every blade of grass has a purpose. God gives purpose to every single thing. Every single thing in this world has a calling. It may have a great calling, it may have a lesser calling, but everything has a calling. Everything is endowed with information, with rationality, and then this can be perceived. This is exactly how science works. Science is able to find information within creation, because creation is an ordered place from which this information can be drawn. right? We see that the world functions according to laws and stability. Otherwise, we would not be able to tell what chaos and order even are. And the Lord calls us to live ordered lives. The Lord calls us to live lives that are established upon virtues and rationality. And what is the supreme rationality? To keep the commandments of Christ, to keep his law, to follow him. This is the highest form of rationality. All other forms of rationality are all valuable, but they're lesser than this. And I look at today's culture, today's world, in which people today have become so bizarre in their views. You know, the Lord Jesus Christ in the gospel says, God has made them male and female. Right? The Holy Scriptures teach that there are two genders. The Holy Prophets say this. Christ himself says this, who is God himself. The Holy Church teaches this. And yet today, men have strayed so far from nature. They've strayed so far from what is normal, from what is rational, from what is sensible, that now you have men saying there are as many genders as there are desires possible. What does this reveal to us? It reveals to us the complete lack of God in these people's lives. The complete lack of a framework, the complete lack of a center. Brothers and sisters, we have to return to this rationality. Creation is good. Rationality is good. Everything in creation is good. But we must use it in accordance with nature. And that is what St. Maximus teaches us. He says that in the next life, those who've lived in accordance with nature, whether it be with food, whether it be with their marital relations, whether it be with every aspect of creation, those who use creation in its intended role, they will enter into an eternity of harmony. Those who have misused creation and have lived not in accordance with nature will have an eternity of disharmony. Let us receive God, brothers and sisters. Let us draw near to him in faith, and let us open our hearts to him, that he may fill us with his wisdom, with his rationality. The Jesus prayer is the most rational thing we can do, to invite the Logos himself into our mind and say, order our mind correctly, order our life correctly, establish us in a place of order. And let us run as far as we can from this insane blasphemy of the Pharisees, who, when confronted with the truth itself, have no response but to utter lies. Amen.